President Biden and the State of the Union address, making his case to the American people for 4 more years. This as voters express concerns about his age and the nation's future. Let's go right to senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott.
Juju, this was a fiery, at times combative State of the Union address. The president keenly aware that he is delivering this speech in a critical election year. He did not mention Donald Trump by name, but he did take him on, as well as the Republicans directly there in that chamber many times throughout the night. The president going head-to-head, sparring on several key issues, from immigration to Social Security to Medicare. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson wanted there to be a level of decorum, of civility in that chamber. Well, that did not happen. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene kicking it off, calling the president a liar, repeatedly booing the president. Also, one key focus for President Biden tonight, the issue of reproductive rights. The bottom line, this felt a lot like a campaign speech in this critical election year, Juju.
Rachel Scott on Capitol Hill. Thanks. More now on President Biden's hour-long State of the Union address. The big question, did he do enough to win over voters? A high-stakes moment for the president.
The President of the United States.
Coming on the heels of Super Tuesday, and now likely facing a rematch with former President Donald Trump this November.
It's because of you that tonight we can proudly say the state of our union is strong and getting stronger.
With tensions continuing to boil over both domestically and globally, many Americans question whether Joe Biden is fit to lead the country for 4 more years. The president reassuring the nation he's up for the job.
And I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal and deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives.
The latest polling showing 47% of Americans believe the 81-year-old is too old to run, versus 21% who think Trump is too old at 77.
Throughout his speech, Biden never once mentioning Trump by name, but referring to him several times.
My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. This is the moment to speak the truth and to bury the lies. Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win.
The president speaking about the economy, something polls show Biden is underperforming on.
My inherited economy is on the brink. Now our economy is literally the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs in just 3 years, a record.
Biden also addressing immigration and border security, another issue that polling shows he trails Trump on by double digits.
On my first day in office, I introduced a comprehensive bill to fix our immigration system. Take a look at it. It has all these and more. Secure the border, provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, and so much more.
Biden also discussing reproductive rights, a key issue under his presidency and in his campaign for re-election. Biden polling at 37% favorability versus Trump's 28%.
If you, the American people, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
One of the guests in the First Lady's box, Kate Cox.
What her family got through should have never happened as well.
The Dallas mother who sued the state of Texas after she was denied an emergency abortion by the state Supreme Court back in December. My colleague Rachel Scott spoke with Kate and her OBGYN, Dr. Damla Karsan, ahead of the address.
What does it mean to you to be invited as a guest?
I'm so grateful that the State of the Union is shining a light on this very important issue.
Because Texas has a ban on abortion, the mother of 2 had to flee her home state in order to terminate her pregnancy in her second trimester after discovering during an early screening that her fetus had a fatal anomaly, trisomy 18.
You're told that your baby has virtually no chance of survival.
Yeah. I'm so excited for our 3rd baby. It's the hardest news I've ever received. And it's hard to walk around pregnant with a belly. And people ask you, when are you due? When are you having? Do you have a name?
Her uterus was at risk of rupturing. If she were to continue to carry to term, it could have risked her health and cost her the ability to have a baby in the future.
Kate has had 2 prior C-sections and so really wasn't a candidate to deliver vaginally. So She would require another C-section, even inducing labor early still has risks when you have a scar on your uterus.
Even though she was getting sicker by the day, continuing to carry a non-viable pregnancy, she still couldn't access an emergency abortion in the state of Texas?
Not legally.
It was hard because it was never a matter of if I would have to say goodbye to my baby, but when she survived the birth, she could live maybe a week maximum was best case scenario. How many people have to speak up? How many women have to tell their most painful journey publicly before something changes?
What do you want to see changed?
I hope that in the future, families will get to have those conversations with their doctor. I hope that the law will be different to allow that so that women and families can get the care that they need in their journeys.
The Biden campaign looks at the issue of reproductive rights as a galvanizing issue. It was important to have someone like Kate Cox at the address tonight because it puts a real face to the fallout of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. This is not something that's happening in the abstract.
Also in the House tonight, Orna and Ronan Nutra, among the many family members of American hostages in Gaza, invited by both sides of the aisle.
The release of the hostages is a bipartisan issue, and we appreciate the commitment on behalf of Congresspeople on both sides.
The Nutra's son, 22-year-old Omer, grew up on Long Island, New York, and is the grandson of Holocaust survivors. He was temporarily living in Israel, serving in the Israeli Defense Forces when he was taken hostage on October 7th.
He always has a smile on his face. He brings people together. He loves people.
Members of both parties wearing yellow ribbons, showing bipartisan support to bring the hostages home.
All we care about right now is to see that we get our son back. And, solving the issues in the Middle East can be done as a further step.
The president stating his belief in a two-party state between Israelis and Palestinians as the path forward, and announcing an emergency military mission to build a port on Gaza's coastline to help get humanitarian aid into the territory.
Israel must do its part. Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire.
Since the start of the war, there have been reportedly more than 30,000 Gazans who've been killed and over 2 million experiencing food insecurity.
To the leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian assistance cannot be a secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority.
Tonight's address coming in the wake of several primaries, already showing warning signs for Biden, in part over his support of the war. Nearly 20% of Democratic voters in last month's Michigan primary didn't choose Biden in protest of his handling of the Israel-Hamas war.
The 30,000 Palestinians that have been lost, that have been killed, will no longer be back. And there's nothing that Joe Biden can say that will make me change my mind and vote for him.
Joe Biden has not done enough to earn my vote and not done enough to stop the war, stop the massacre.
In a state like Minnesota, a state that Democrats want to win, we saw 30% of folks who cast ballots in the Democratic primary cast ballots for someone who was not President Biden. Many of those votes going to the uncommitted option. And that is something that the Biden campaign is going to have to contend with come November.
Biden also highlighting his support for Ukraine as it fends off Russia's invasion more than 2 years into that conflict.
If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
And emphasizing that House Republicans need to move forward in sending aid for Ukraine.
My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away. We will not bow down.
The Republican response came from 42-year-old Alabama Senator Katie Britt, a rising star in the GOP.
President Biden just doesn't get it. He's out of touch.
Her response hitting on border security.
We know that President Biden didn't just create this border crisis. He invited it with 94 executive actions in his first 100 days. President Biden's border policies are a disgrace.
And the economy.
The American people are scraping by. Well, President Biden proudly proclaims that Bidenomics is working. Goodness, y'all, bless his heart, we know better.
Right. I think Senator Britt's response and her remarks really showcased what the GOP strategy is going to be, particularly around the issue of immigration.
Biden ending his remarks with his promise to America.
And I will always be president for all Americans. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America.
And of course, GMA will have more reaction to the president's address in the morning.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.